Hi everyone, this is Jen from Scrapping Posh, and I am here with a video today that's a little bit different. I had a scrappy friend contact me, and she was having an issue with an album she was making. She was using chipboard and a 3-ring binder, and when she put her pattern paper on, she put her pattern paper all the way to the side so that it was actually tearing at the corner. Of course, I recommend wrapping the chipboard before you start, but if you've already got your pattern paper on and you don't want to buy more, we can fix it. So I'm just going to use this. Hers is much larger, which is another reason maybe that you need to put or wrap the cardboard after you have your paper on. But let's go about this. So I'm just going to use this extremely old paper from, I love looking at dates, but I don't know that there is a date on this. I'm going to say it's from the 1990s. It's from a company called Sunburn, S-O-N-B-U-R-N. And I'm just using a scrap piece of chipboard for these purposes. So if you ever have this issue, this is what we're going to do. So 7.5 by 3 3/4 is my chipboard length and width, and 3 3/4 by 7.5. So if we have to fix something like this in the future, this is how you would fix it. Of course, this is very thin paper, but your paper would be thicker if you're using a pattern paper. And then I'm just going to quickly connect this. I'm sure she took a little bit more time connecting her cover paper, but whenever you're connecting cover paper on a real mini album, make sure that you completely cover the back of the paper so that you don't get air bubbles. That's important. So I'm assuming this is how she did it. And then she has this exposed edge here. This edge is going to be prone to chipping and just tearing and stuff from the paper because it's not protected. So the way that we can do this really quick is by using, you can use a pattern paper, or you can use a solid, and I'm going to use a solid. And if you want to make it a little fancier, you can go ahead and put an edge on it, which is what I think I'm going to do. It makes it look more intentional, I think. So I'm going to use this to collect my droppings here. And I'm just going to use my old Martha Stewart doily punch. And I'm going to create an entire edge here. Turn it around the way it's supposed to be used. You all know how to do this, so I'm going to speed up this process a little bit. Okay, so most important part about this is I recommend that you use a really strong adhesive, because you're not going to have anything holding the rest of this front down. I'm going to use score tape. You can always use glue as long as you hold it down until it dries before you do the opposite side. And I'm just going to lay one strip of score tape along this. Now you're going to lose some of your design, but if you've already had this on here for a while, then you're going to that side's going to be all messed up anyways, because it's going to chip and tear. So I'm going to remove this. And you know what? I am going to bring my scoreboard back to give you guys a tip. If you want to line something up straight, use your scoreboard. Just hold it, whatever you're using, up against the top. And if you're straight, you can line it up here. You can line it up at the top. That's going to give you a straight edge. Okay, so there's a tip for you. And then on the back, you'll have this. If you're using glue, let that dry completely on the front. If you're not, we're going to run another piece of your glue or adhesive or whatever you're using. Make sure it is strong along the back. And then you simply fold this over. And you have a nice finished edge. Again, I recommend doing all the edges because you're going to get the same wear and tear on the rest of it. Now, how do we make this look decent? I don't have a surefire way to make it look, you know, like perfect. Okay, so I tried this with a 45-degree miter and I just didn't like it. So we're going to do it without, and it's just going to be a straight edge. You can always cover up those corners if you don't like the way they look with a corner piece or something, which might not be a bad idea if you have if you're not completely wrapped, if your cover's not completely wrapped. So again, this book was held together by a three rings. So there we go. Top and bottom, we want at least a 1/2 inch, so I'm using 1/2 inch score tape. 1/2 inch hanging over, line it up with the side. Here's the front. Like I said, you just lose a little bit of your pattern paper, but this one, the one that she had, was a really big book, so I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. You can always use bookbinding corners or whatever, the metal pieces. There we go. And again, I think we should do this side too if we were actually doing a book. Here we go. This one, we're going to go this one. And then the easiest way to wrap this is just like that. You can trim the back if you want, if you don't want it hanging over all that much. This one's a little crooked. I'll pull that up and do it again. We do not need crooked. And it got crooked because my chipboard was obviously cut crooked. There we go. And then this side. Again, you can trim this side off. You can use your doily punch or whatever on there too to decorate this side a little bit. Okay, so there is how to fix a cover that needs to be wrapped because it's fraying. Now, I'm going to show you how I suggest that you do it without, if you've not decorated yet. If you just start and you're not going to do a hinge system and you're just going to do rings, I suggest you wrap your entire album with cardstock. And let me get some 65-pound cardstock. So I recommend front and back, or at least to wrap around. And I'm just using this piece as an example because it's kind of like a throwaway at this point. Pretend like there's no pattern paper on it. Okay, so first thing you do, you make sure that you have a 1/2 inch all the way around. I actually like about 1 inch, okay? So just pretend like this is a plain piece of chipboard. And make sure that whatever glue you use, and you can use regular glue, just don't bunch it up, because if you bunch it up, it's going to leave waves because it'll be too wet. Okay, here we go. I really don't want to get my hands gluey, but I'm going to. So this is how I recommend you actually start if you haven't yet for a 3-ring bind system. Make sure that your glue is completely covering. Give yourself about 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch on all sides. And then we're going to cut off the excess. And then miter the corners. And you can either miter it by going straight in. I just go at a diagonal. And you can do this with your pattern paper, or you can do this with regular cardstock. And you do the same thing here as if you would if you were doing a hinge system. You put tape on both sides. The strong tape, so score tape or glue. If you use glue, you must make sure that it dries all the way. There we go. And this one, and this one here. I always do the long sides first, don't know why. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. Take the tape off the 2 long sides, use your actual chipboard to level it over. Okay. Tape off the 2 sides. Use the chipboard, pull it over. Same on this side. Whoops. I have to glue that. When you miter the corners here, you leave at least 1/8 inch. I got a little extra there on that. When I pulled that off, there we go. Okay, that should suffice now. Of course, if you're using this for your cover, you may give it just a little bit more love than I'm giving this one. Okay, and then wrap it. Now, with this, your corners, your sides are already protected. So that's why you want to wrap it. You then put your holes in there. You can use extra paper for hole reinforcement. You can try and use eyelets, but you have to make sure that your eyelets are quite a bit larger than the rings that you're using, or your pages and your cover will get kind of hung up. So I hope this helps you guys. A little bit of problem solving, troubleshooting if you have an album that you're working on that you've run into trouble on. And then, of course, if you haven't started yet, use this method. You can even see here that I have some warping here, and it's simply because I used too much glue. So try not to use so much glue on the cover, or just use dry adhesive, but make sure that dry adhesive gets all the way across. Another thing you can do is, before it dries all the way, is even it out. Of course, if you're going to put a piece of pattern paper on that, it's not going to make that big of a deal. So there you go. I hope this was helpful, and please comment, like, and subscribe for any more tips. If you have any questions, if you're working on a project and you've run into an issue with it, feel free to contact me. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.